Hello, 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 and welcome to the Penguins Collective Podcast. My name is Louie.
My name is Josh.
Oh, and we're two brothers who love to talk about hockey.
Especially the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Oh, what a stupid game this was tonight. The Pittsburgh Penguins fall to the Arizona Coyotes. We have bad goaltending. We had bad defense. We had bad turnovers. And we had an own goal. That's right. You heard me correct. We had an own goal in a hockey game, in a professional hockey game, in a college arena. The Pittsburgh Penguins absolutely sucked tonight. Except for Jansen Harkins. He played fantastic tonight. But the Pittsburgh Penguins absolutely looked like trash. They looked worse than a college team. They didn't even deserve to play in that arena tonight. They deserve to play on a frozen pond somewhere in Wisconsin because that's way better than what we got tonight. The Pittsburgh Penguins fall to the Arizona Coyotes, but we got a great show for you today. We have a special guest, Donnie Harkins, coming soon. But right now, I want to thank you guys for joining this show. When you're on Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, wherever you are, thank you for watching. And in future, thank you for listening on wherever you find your favorite podcast platforms. Josh is finally back with us. Josh, what did you think of tonight's game?
Yeah, glad to be back. Fighting the flu for the last week with the fam. That's been rough, but I am here and awake because I was asleep last episode.
Yeah, that's right.
that was rough. I got the puck drop, and about 5 minutes in, I was gone. And
so were the Penguins. Don't worry.
Yeah, well, no, it seemed like they had a little juice in them for two periods.
That's true. The third, they fell asleep. The third,
yeah.
They fell asleep.
However, tonight was a whole different ball game. It felt like tonight they came into it asleep. They were already asleep coming into it. No energy at all the entire game. Jari looked slow, which I did not like at all.
Unreal from him. He slipped. Yeah. He slipped and they scored on him. Go ahead.
Like he was dancing in his own crease and couldn't figure out where the puck was. And tripped and slipped and whatever, and that goal came in. It was unreal. I don't even know where to start because typically I like to go in chronological order. But I mean, obviously the headline is the fact that when trying to stall on a delayed penalty while on a penalty kill, we scored on our own net. I mean, I understand what Letang is doing. He did a great job with it. However,
what do you mean?
What? No. Hold on. However, why are you passing it in front of your own net when there's no goalie? I get it. Malkin was the last person to touch it, which did technically steer it into the net. However, that's not the type of pass that you make right in front of your net when Jari is out of it.
It's true.
Other than that, I'm fine with killing time to capitalize to have more time on your power play. I get that. Just not the pass to make at that situation.
Yeah.
But that's also not the only thing that was bad tonight. Everything was bad tonight.
Oh.
The pass. I mean, we talked about this about a month ago. How about the passes on the blue line? Horrible. So many odd man rushes. So many turnovers. Neutral zone. Couldn't get into the zone. Couldn't make a single pass, couldn't go cross crease. Everything. The only thing that worked for us, which has worked for us all year, was faceoffs, which is depressing.
Yeah. The only thing that's worked for us is Sidney Crosby. Okay, Sidney Crosby looking good. Yeah, I mean, I did say Harkins. He did look good. Like he was throwing the body around, which is what I want. Even Sidney Crosby was throwing the body around. Not only that, Drew O'Connor looked really good tonight as well. But turnovers were the killer for the Penguins tonight. You could talk about own goals because you have to. But turnovers, blue line passing, like you just said, led to so many odd man rushes. Bad passing down low, which led to stretch passes going the opposite way.
Yep.
You have to control the puck. And the Penguins did not control the puck at all. They have not played it tonight's game. They did not play more than 5 minutes of good hockey. I think that's a fair assessment of the Penguins tonight. They did not play 5 minutes of good hockey. And that's rough to see with the talent that we have on the roster. I'm not saying this team is done for. This team can win. This roster is a good roster. They have to buy into their roles, and they have to figure out what to do with the puck. Clearly, they don't know. I feel like sometimes when you give someone too much of a free rein, they make mistakes. It's okay to box them in a little bit. It's okay to put a leash on them. And I feel like that was kind of what happened tonight. Look, the bad passing led to an own goal. The cute passing, the stuff that we never liked. Like, it worked in 2016. It's not working now. Stop doing the cute passes. It leads to our own goal. Goaltend. Ari played all right. Like, he didn't play terrible, but he played all right. But his mistakes cost him. Like, for crying out loud, he wasn't even on the ice when they scored the fourth goal.
Yeah.
Like, he thought it was a delayed penalty. He went to the bench. That wasn't his fault. But horrible, just all around. We're hearing crap about firing Mike Sullivan, which he's not.
Again.
Now it's coming in heavy. It was trending on Twitter that Dubas was trending. He should fire Mike Sullivan. We here on this podcast, we officially say that that's false. We do not want Mike Sullivan to be fired. But overall, Penguins played terrible tonight. We lost to the Coyotes. I need something happy. We need to go into something happy. Josh, before we go into our next thing, any last comments about tonight's game? I think I said my piece.
I mean, circumstances with tonight's episode, obviously special guest. We want to allow more time for him.
Yeah.
I would love, obviously not tonight. We can get into it next game against Florida. Malkin and everything that you love and hate about him, and then just the lines. There's still no continuity. Nothing. We're changing things up again, and then we're changing them again mid-game. So I don't know. I can rub my head and stress about this more than I need to tonight, but I think you're right. I think we should move.
Let's go on a happy note, Josh. Let's go on a happy note.
Happier note.
Let's introduce the family tonight, all right? All right. From Miami University of Ohio, who in 2003 to 2004 was the Honey Baked 16U AAA head coach. Moved on to Cleveland Barons, NAHL GM head coach. On to the Ohio Junior Blue Jackets, to the Plymouth Whalers, then to the Cleveland Barons, to the Plymouth Whalers, once again, director of scouting, where he landed to be the OHL scout for the Flint Firebirds, uncle of Jensen Harkins. Ladies and gentlemen, friend of the podcast, makes one phone call, you're in 6 feet the next day. Ladies and gentlemen, Uncle Donnie Harkins.
I don't know where's the smoke, Josh? Like, where's the smoke, Louie? Like, I should be skating out like with the smoke with that.
I know, with the lights.
Absolutely,
and the music.
you should.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show.
I should be selling right out of the gate. I'm thinking. I just feel with that intro. That's sick.
Well, welcome to the
He's
show.
practicing all day.
Yeah,
Been practicing all day.
Oh, trust me.
Must have been.
I'm not gonna lie. When I saw, first of all, incredible resume, but I was going through. I was like, should I hit every single year? And I was like, think that's too much. I think that would take up so much of the podcast because you have done so much in hockey. There is so much to talk about for what you've done. First of all, thank you for joining this simple little podcast, and we appreciate your time.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I mean, I saw you guys on last week and thought you guys did a good job. You were funny, you were entertaining. I'm like, I want to hook up with those guys. So it just kind of matriculated to here we are now. So on
Nice.
a late own goal night from down here in Naples, Florida, which doesn't happen very often, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just want to start, if you don't mind, Donnie. Louie just gave the brief overview of who you are and what you're currently doing at Flint. But if you wouldn't mind, just give us a little brief overview of currently your role with the Flint Firebirds.
Yeah, I just basically handle U.S. scouting of U.S. players that are eligible for the OHL draft this coming springtime. I identify with our staff there, but I mainly just focus on U.S. guys. So it's not like I'm retired or semi-retired, but my focus is just strictly on U.S. born players for the Ontario Hockey League draft.
Nice.
Oh wow. So
Sweet.
so is it true? I know this may sound like a dumb first question out of the gate, but where do you find the best American hockey players?
Well, the OHL has boundaries. Like you can't go west of the Mississippi River. So we have like geographical locations, but
Okay.
for me, Detroit and Chicago are two hotbeds that I've been successful in drafting players for Plymouth and Flint, and when I was the general manager in the USHL with the Blue Jackets. Chicago and Detroit are just hockey hotbeds in the Midwest. Obviously, Minnesota and Boston, but those aren't our area. The Boston's Quebec Major Junior League, and Minnesota kids are in the Western Hockey League. So when I did work for Jansen's dad, my brother Todd, in the Western Hockey League with Prince George, I was in Minnesota quite often, identifying and drafting players for the WHL Bantam draft.
Now
That makes sense.
Now, let's talk about probably when I don't want to say probably. There was a very famous hockey player you personally recruited. All right? Who is that hockey player? How did all that shake up? And did you personally give the final line to say, "Hey, come play for me"?
Yeah, it was actually during when I took over the Honey Baked 88 birth year team. It was a tournament in Toronto, and this little kid was just out there just making plays all over the place, high hockey IQ, dangling around. He was just a little kid, and I'm trying to figure out why my team wasn't like taking his head off. You know what I mean? So after the game in the handshake line, I was going through and I said, "Son, if you ever want to come move to Detroit and play for me, I'd love to have you." And this was probably when the kids were peewees, and that player just so happened to be Patrick Kane. So I think I just wore his mom and dad, Pat and Donna, down as well as Kaner. And when he was 14 years old, he was an eighth grader, so all the rest of his team went and played high school, but Kaner had like a month in between. So we dropped him off his Buffalo Saints roster, placed him on our Honey Bake roster. Then I dropped him off when the deadlines froze at December 31st, but he played for us that whole month. And I think that was like the intro into him committing that the following year and ended up playing for me. And for a couple of years, and then went on to the U.S. National Development Team, and then the London Knights, and then the Chicago Blackhawks, and the rest is history.
So I just love the fact that in a handshake line at the end of the game, you're like, "You're better than all of my guys. Come play for me."
Yeah,
like
Lou,
those
you know
kids.
it is. I'm a sales and marketing guy by heart, so I mean, you always got to be selling, right? So I don't give. It doesn't matter what point of the game it is, and it's funny because Mr. King came up to me, and I had a couple players. I just took over that team. I had to set the culture, and I had a couple kids that were, saying not so nice things as a referee. So I sent them to the locker room off the ice and had them run stairs the whole rest of the game in their equipment. And Mr. Kane, when I came into the locker room that day, he asked me that. He goes, "Hey, what was the deal with those two kids you had over there running in the stands?" And I said, "Hey, they disrespected an adult, and I'm trying to change the culture. I'm just taking over this team, and that's totally unacceptable behavior for kids that are going to play for me." And that's he liked that because I just had the guts to do that. A lot of coaches want to do that stuff, but they don't have the guts to actually, act upon it. But I was confident in my own skin with doing the right thing, and that kind of set with Mr. Kane back as a first impression type thing.
So a literal. Sorry. Go ahead, Josh.
No, I was just going to say, because that was going to be one of my questions, is that, just from the brief interactions that we've had with you, you seem like a no nonsense guy.
Yeah.
It just, you say it how it is, and that's just what it is.
Yep.
And it seemed like that's how you were with coaching. I remember reading an article that, when there was a game about Patrick Kane not doing well, you laid into him.
Yep.
Even at 14.
Yep.
You just told it how it is, and that's just that's just how it is, and that's how it should be, kind of for these developmental players.
Yeah.
So just wanted to ask, like, do you feel like that's a missing nowadays in youth hockey? Because I kind of feel like it is kind of very
I really do, because I'm more old school. Like I'm much like Torts, how Torts coaches, and you see the response of Flyers. I mean, tough old school coaches, like players want to be coached. Like when I had dinner last year with Kaner on his trip after he got traded to the Rangers, like he said, I played for passive coaches with Luke Richardson and Jeremy Colleton, and he goes, I feel like Gerard Gallant's not challenging me, coach. Like I want to go to him and talk to him and say, hey, Gerard, you can single me out, like, and you can get on me if I'm not playing good, because Kaner responds to that stuff. Now, there was tough conversations with him sometimes, and he'd be in tears in the when I leave the locker room, and that's hard. I'm a parent too. I'm a father, so when you walk out of the dressing room and you have one of your star players, in tears, it hurts. But at that time and at that moment, that's what that player needed. And Mrs. Kane would get upset with me sometimes, Donna would, and she'd be like telling Big Pat, why is Donnie picking on Patrick? Why is he picking on Patrick? And Big Pat was very supportive. He said, Donna, he knows what he's doing. Just leave him alone and let him do it. I always feel if you are very black and white with kids you're coaching and developing, because this is youth hockey and youth sports, okay, but parents spend a lot of money now trying to develop their kids in youth sports. And when I was a kid, we played the neighborhood or street hockey with my brothers and pummeled each other. And that's where we got our toughness and competitiveness from. And we're just kind of lacking that. I feel like, are we really developing strong leaders today in youth sports because of how soft parents want coaches to be on their children? And I don't think they're doing them a justice by that, because anybody with any type of competitiveness and intestinal fortitude wants to be challenged and pushed if you want to be elite. Like Nick Saban said, a great quote from Nick Saban says, high achievers don't like mediocre people, and mediocre people don't like high achievers. You know what I mean? And like Nick Saban, another quote, he says, if you want to be liked, sell ice cream. Don't be a coach. You know what I mean? Because we're there to do a job, and we're smart enough to know as coaches that all these players that we are very fortunate enough to have an impactful, development stage upon them are all going pro in life. Very few go pro like Patrick Kane in hockey or other athletes in other sports, but they all go pro in life. So if we make them better husbands, coworkers, brothers, whatever we can do to impact them as a better person in life, and because that's ultimately where they're going to go pro in, then I feel like we, as coaches, we've done our job. But I don't think the landscape allows it, Josh, to be, to do that anymore. We're not developing the way we used to develop, and I think that really hinders the leaders we're developing in our society as young athletes, because everyone loves to hire athletes out of because of their competitiveness, team framework, all the good things with the team sports teaches our kids.
Go ahead, Louie.
Oh no, I mean I totally agree. So that's youth sports, right? Obviously, you have to kind of be black and white with them. When it comes a little older, right? So obviously your resume and your Josh just disappeared. He'll be back really quick. So in your resume here, when you're a head coach, when you're dealing with a little older guys, right, who are thinking pro, who are thinking, hey, this is the next step for me. Is it continuing being black and white, or is it like, hey, I'm going to try to help him kind of hone on these skills so that way he's better for it, and sometimes it's not always black and white for that going forward.
I think I try to be black and white because it's very easy for your players to understand. Because when you say a thing in the locker room, you have 20 players that interpret it all differently through their brains, right? So if you can be as black and white as possible, you're sending a clear message. So then the kids know if you're happy with them, if you're not happy with them. So what do we need to do? You're in the heat of the battle in a game. Like, you don't have time to feel sorry for yourself, or because you got to get right back out there. You can't change the past shift, but you can look forward to have an impact on your next shift. So I think that's that I don't, no matter what level it is, the message still has to be clear and concise. And sometimes people don't like that because they don't want to hear the truth.
Sure,
but
sure.
but
Yeah, yeah.
but the truth is what you need to hear in order to get better and fix. If you're not playing to a certain level that we expect you to, how do you get back to that level? I mean, we're there to help them and develop them and win, right? So sometimes you do it so your team forges a bond, and there might be pushback against the coach. But as a coach, that's okay, because they're pushing back against me. Guess what? They're pushing back against the opponent, and the result's going to be favorable for us in the scoreboard, even if I have to take the shrapnel as the head coach. So you're just trying to push the right buttons to get the kids to perform at the highest level. Because if you took the same exact team, the team that competes and performs at the highest mental capacity is going to be successful. Like, if you took the same 6-foot hockey player, football player with same speed time, same skating ability, same hands, same hockey sense, same hockey IQ, it's the player that performs at the highest mental capacity. Collectively as a team, lots of those players on the team, then they're going to have the most success, and you're going to, and ultimately, it's like money in business. Like, money never leads; it always follows. The scores never lead; they always follow. If you play the right way, do the right things. Like the Pens last week, I was at that Seattle game, and they 3-0, and they really didn't give much. It was a semi-boring game, but they just played the right way. And if you see a lot of the comments from coming out of that game in the media, it's they really played the right way. They gave them nothing. A little different than what's happening the third period of the last game, and then tonight's game was just kind of a weird. I didn't see the whole
Yeah.
game, bits and parts. Clayton Keller, I coached against Clayton when I had the 98 Contour team. Clayton played for the 98 St. Louis Blues team, and he was a crafty little player way back then. You know what I mean? So some of these kids just continue on no matter what age. If they were peewee and they become a bantam, certain guys fall off, and certain guys like Clayton Keller or Patrick Kane, they just have unique hockey sense and IQ and skill set that they just continue to, keep evolving, so.
No. That's great. One last coaching question that I wanted to ask is during the game. All right, we see two different styles of coaching, right? You see John Tortorella, and then you see like Mike Sullivan, right? They're both good friends, but John Tortorella has a way different way of coaching than Mike Sullivan. Mike Sullivan, if he sees a guy doing something wrong, he's quiet. He's on the bench. He's quiet, reserved, probably holding a conversation later in the locker room with that player. Where do you fall whereas John Tortorella is like yelling at the guy in the middle of the game? So where do you fall? Which one do you see benefits, pros and cons with styles of coaching mid game?
Well, you need to know which players you can challenge a certain way. You know what I mean? Like, I'm more like Torts, like, where are my emotions on my sleeve? We're in the heat of a battle. We got to get after it. You know what I mean? But then you also have to adapt, right? So you want like a little blend of maybe Torts and a blend of Sully. Like, you have to adapt to your players, because all you're trying to do is get the message across to them so they perform at that highest level of mental capacity that I was talking about. So, but I'm more of a where my emotion on my sleeves kind of guy. You'll know if Coach Harkins is happy with you, and you'll know if Coach Harkins isn't. But we're all trying to get the same goals, to have this athlete perform at the highest level possible. Like that, at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do and accomplish. So.
Yeah, so obviously, I stepped away, so I'm not sure exactly what was discussed. So if this is a repeat, stop me. But obviously, Jansen is your nephew. But just curious, how young did you notice his skill level that you thought would be elite in order to make him to the NHL? And what do you see now as opposed to earlier on? I know obviously his father was his coach as well, Todd, but just from your perspective,
Yeah,
what you saw.
Jansen's really improved, like, his skating. Like, that's one of his biggest assets now, right? Is his speed
Yeah.
on pucks and forecheck and stuff. And he really had to work on that. He works very, very extremely hard. So coming out of that Bantam draft, Matt Barzell was picked number 1 overall. Jansen was picked number 2 overall. And Jansen was Prince George's all-time leading scorer. Like, all these guys that play at this level, at some point were a top scorer. Okay, now you have to adapt your role. Where do you fit in? You have to change, the way you play. Some guys like Matt Barzell come right up. They get top 6 opportunities right out of the gate. They produce early on, and they just run with it, right? Other people like Jansen, he was in the NHL full year. Then Rick Bowness came in. Then he was in the minors, but he didn't feel sorry for himself. He lit it up there last year. This year, gets picked up on waivers. Then he gets sent down. And then, you don't go down and feel sorry for yourself. You're a professional, so you got to work your butt off to get back up to where you wanted to be. And I think this last stint when he came up, fitting in nicely on that fourth line with Karts and Nola Chari. I know Sully relies on that line a lot. They can change momentum in games. They're not offensively on the scoreboard as much as I'm sure those players would like, but they change momentum in games, and they're trustworthy, and that they contribute to the success of the team when the team's playing the right way and playing well. Tonight was just a bad night, and I think, Josh, you alluded to, what do you do with a game like that? As a coach, I just flush it. And move on to the next one, because that's nothing good's going to come out of that. There's no good film. When you score on yourself, nothing good. You know what I mean? That's just. The only thing worse would have been Tanger if he took like a hard slapper and Malkin tipped it in the net top shelf. You know what I mean? So.
Do you even talk about it as a coach? Do you walk into the locker room and say, "See you boys at practice tomorrow"? Like, do you even say anything?
I walk in the locker room after a game like that and said, "Love you guys. See you at practice next week." Boom, I'm out of there.
With the love you, huh? I would. I don't know if I would. I think I would be like,
no, because you want to know. The players don't care how much you know. They just want to know how much you care. So that's the thing. You can push guys as hard as you want. But if they know that you care about them and their best interests, and I had a player, Vinny Bradley, who works on some startups in New York and LA, very successful in the business world, and I take a lot of pride in those guys too. He played for me in the USHL. I drafted him, but I would ask Vinny, because I have adult relationships with a lot of my former players, which as a father and as a coach, that's important, because they always say as parents, if we have adult relationships with our children, then that means we did a good job raising them. But I would say to Vinny, Vinny, why'd you guys play so hard for me? I was so tough on you guys. And he goes, Coach, don't get me wrong. There were days we hated you. But at the end of the day, we knew how much you cared about us, and we did not want to let you down. So if you can tap the psyche of your team that way, then you're going to be hard to beat if you have talent, right? My dad always gave me advice, says, hey, you want to be a good coach, get off the bus with the best players. There's a lot of truth to that, but you still have to have those players buy in from a competitiveness standpoint, from a work ethic standpoint. You know what I mean? Because will beat skill if skill doesn't work hard. You know what I mean? And I had the greatest thing, different teams I've coached, but that Honey Bake team, we had Andy Mealy in that team too, the one that Hobie Baker played in Miami, Ohio, and other guys that played in the OHL. And we were you want to play run and gun? We'll beat your butt that way. You want to play smash mouth in your face? Let's be, tough and rumble hockey. We could beat you that way. So that's just a unique way. When you have a team like that can beat the opponent in multiple ways, then you have a special team, so.
Yeah. One just quick question. You could talk about it, but it's in the media right now. It's not something I hope for. So Mike Sullivan's, obviously there's some rumors right now. Not rumors, not any legible, credible rumors, but it's floated out there. Mike Sullivan's job is his job in a hot seat. And when that always happens, the question comes, did the coach lose the room? Do you actually believe that a coach could lose a hockey room? Do you believe that that's how it works? Or is it more relational, like you're talking about, where it's just like, hey, guys, they have to pin the blame on me. Good luck, have fun. Is it a blend? What do you think?
Yeah, obviously, I comment on it. I don't think Sully's lost room at all by any means of imagination. My nephew and all players in that dressing room were very fortunate to play for a coach like that. But as coaches, we're only as good as our leadership, and obviously, Sid and the leadership that they have in the Penguins. They have a very strong leadership group there, and that's a very good thing. I feel that they have there, and they'll get through these tough games and these tough times. And they're in the playoffs right now. Every team is within a couple points. You go on a streak. If someone goes on a streak, that might create some separation. But everyone's kind of winning one and losing one and winning overtime, gaining a point. I mean, it's kind of a shit show when you look at it with that whole division. I mean, you can go from first to worst in a really bad 10 days. So, so you're in the fight. The key is, you want to stay in the fight, bounce back, short-term memory. You got to play this. You got to play sports at any level, like cornerbacks in football. They get beat all the time. And I watch football, and I know the Pittsburgh fan base is a passionate fan base. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I know it's a big rivalry there, but we're pretty much the same people. We're blue collar, hardworking, honest people that want to bust our butt and perform. And but I don't think you don't lose the room like that. Too strong a leadership in that dressing room, I feel, and I think they're fine. I really do.
I mean, I agree with you. I was just saying, like, is that possible? I agree with you. Like I said, I've said it on this podcast multiple times. I would take a bullet for Mike Sullivan. So I think, and I'm sure a lot of those guys in the locker room would say the same. I did want to ask
a lot of sports. If the coach doesn't have the players' backs, then I can see how a locker room could turn on a coach. But that's not. And I'm just saying this just in sports in general.
Right.
But yeah, that goes back to the whole thing. The players don't care what you know; they just want to know how much you care. That's the key to everything. Relationships.
I like that. I love these Uncle Donnie little nuggets of wisdom. We got to get like T-shirts made with this. I love that.
I got to brand these things, Josh.
Yes, 100%. 100%. We got to get those Uncle Donnie T-shirts made. All right, I got a question from Angry Boot on our Discord. We're going with Penguins right now. All right. So, we don't have to go into specifics, but what do you think is holding back our PP? What's holding back our PP, dude?
Hopefully your hand. I mean, I don't know.
We're just letting a free flow here. What do you think is holding back our power play?
Simplification, right? Like when things aren't going well, and everyone in the media talks about it more, the fans get frustrated, they're talking about it. The players are trying their ass off to try and score. They're not out there trying not to score. But sometimes when you try too hard, that's when things go haywire and continue to just kind of, not go your way. So I think just simplification, right? Like just make quick zone entries, gain possession, get the puck, hammer it, crash the net, right? Just make it simple instead of like finding seams, because anybody knows in hockey 101, like the power play, you're trying to create 2-on-1s all over the ice as close to the net as possible, and puck movement opens up seams, and seams make it, if you're letting pucks zing through the seams on the power play, then you're going to have a lot of success or a lot of good looks. You can run into a hot goalie, which that happens some nights and things like that. But I just think simplification, just get the puck and just hammer it and crash the net, net front, make them defend after that first shot. But like we talked before we got on, guys, I mean, there's so many blocks now in hockey at the collegiate level, pro level. I mean, it's hard to get pucks through. So you just got to find shooting lanes and get them through and crash the net. That's what I think would be beneficial for any power play.
I mean that's what Louie has been preaching this whole season, is to get bodies down low and to put pucks on net.
Yeah, I mean take it one time, rifle one and someone's up in their chest. I mean, you don't want anyone to get injured, but you start sending pucks head high and stuff. You get the other opponents looking around. They might not be so brave to go out there and block all those shots. Then you know what I mean? Because blocking shots is not fun. I mean, I always told my guys, like, if you block a shot, you tell all the rest of your teammates how much you love them, because it's not fun blocking shots.
Now, would you encourage more, to piggyback on that, would you encourage more slap shots from like the blue line just to kind of get things going? Like, how would you, like, in mid game be like, you're Todd Reardon, you go, hey, this is what we need to do right now, besides just crashing the net, just like specifically, would you say,
well, it doesn't even matter like what kind of shot it is. You just got to get them through to the net, right? You got to get the goalie to make a save. Then there's a rebound. Then they have to defend in front of their net,
right?
And that's the key, right? Like those second and third chances. That's where you got to be hungry and on your toes and retrieve those pucks and things like that to get secondary, third opportunities, right? Like very rarely do you score on that first one unless the goal is just green and you find it's a seeing eye shot and it just finds its way through and you're fortunate enough to score on something like that. But I just think forcing teams to defend second and third and fourth opportunities on the power play are critical. Puck retrievals are critical. Faceoffs are critical. It's the only time during a power play, offensive zone faceoff, it's a 50-50 faceoff puck battle. And those faceoffs are so critical because you lose it, they ice it. Now you're going 200 feet back to get it. It's probably a 15 to 17 second, time coming off the power play, just going back and retrieving the puck and get back to the zone entry and setting it up again. So faceoffs are very critical. So.
It's funny. Every time you say something negative, it sounds like exactly what the Penguins do. But I'm not going to go into that.
It happens. Yeah, it happens. You guys see it. I mean, it is what it is, right? So you try and correct it. So it's just, is it more focused? Is it bearing down? Is it playing more passionately? Like, I don't know. I don't I don't coach at the NHL level, so they would have to, they would have to pay me.
Not yet. We gotta campaign Uncle Donnie coaching in the NHL. But Josh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just curious. One of the questions that we have is your most memorable coaching moment. Now I know this.
That's a good one.
This person put most memorable coaching moment, but I know you've been a scout for the last few years, so maybe if it's also like a road story that you have, like trying to find that next guy.
What is that movie? Trouble with the is it Trouble with the Curve? What is it?
Oh, where they hear the sound?
Where it's all about a scout.
Yeah,
it's about a scout
yeah.
who goes out and he's like, this kid is going to be a great pitcher. And they're like, how do you know? And he's like, you could hear it. And it's like, they all trust the analytics, but this guy, he knows because he's old school baseball. Is that what is there like a moment where you're like, this guy?
Well, here, when I go evaluate a player, I look for like 4 things actually. Probably 5 things now. So hockey sense, skill, speed, competitiveness, and body language. Like I can just the way a guy carries himself and stuff, I can tell if he's a good teammate or whatever. So I can identify those things pretty quickly in a player, like after a period of hockey. And then there's the tangibles, like projecting them. Because don't forget, guys, like I'm drafting guys in the OHL at 15 years old. I'm projecting them to go to whatever. So like and we have late birth year players. If your birthday is after September 15th, you go with the following year's NHL draft. So like I drafted a kid by the name of Ryan Rosinski from Cleveland, and like the 10th round, just took a flyer on him. He was a late birth year. He had no scholarship at the time, no nothing. Well, subsequently he's got a full ride commitment to Ohio State, so we'll have to recruit him to come play in the OHL instead of Ohio State. I'm banking that he's going to be maybe a higher end pro prospect, and at that time he's going to decide: do I go to Ohio State or do I play in the OHL? There's some legislature stuff going on right now behind the scenes where the Canadian Hockey League and the NCAA are talking where this May they might have a vote where kids can go play major junior in the Quebec, Western, or Ontario League and then still go to college. So that'll be interesting.
Can they play?
That's on the docket right now. The USA Hockey has their meetings going on in Orlando next week, and I'm going to go up there just to kind of see some of my buddies and just kind of matriculate around and see what all the
make connections. I know.
You got a network, Louie. That's all you got in this game is your network, man. So, but it's an aha moment, like with a certain player. I've drafted so many of them that I knew were going to be. I took like Thomas Wilson. That's probably the best draft pick ever because in Plymouth that year, I never even interviewed him because I thought there's no way in hell he's going past the first round. So I thought he would be taken before we even got to him. And he fell to the second round right into our lap. So it's a no-brainer. So lots of scouts will tell you, oh, yeah, I knew that guy was going to be a player. You're way better off to be lucky in the scouting business than you are to be smart. Put it that way. So you can see that Moneyball and all those movies and everything like that. Like we go sit in freezing cold rinks. I just go and watch guys. I don't go to socialize. I just go watch my players that I'm interested in, and then I leave, go do my own thing and write my report on the guy. And then I take flyers on guys and recruit them, like Sonny Milano, Played for me in Cleveland, and we drafted him in Plymouth in the 4th round, and he ends up being a first-round pick. Ryan Hartman, we drafted him in the 4th round or 5th round, Hartsey that year. And he was a late birth year, committed to Miami of Ohio, and it was at the U.S. program, but he didn't want to play another year in the USHL. So we got him to sign in Plymouth, and Hartsey's been a pretty good pro, obviously in Minnesota there. So he ended up being a first-round pick. So I kind of took flyers on guys because they weren't 100% committed to playing in the OHL at that time. Otherwise, they would have been first-round OHL picks. But I took flyers in certain rounds, like 4 through 6 through 7, whatever I feel that we should step up and take the kid. Because if they don't show up, you're kind of wasting a draft pick. But underagers are good because they got that gap year to play. So there's some strategy behind it, but I don't want to tell everyone my deck of cards that's watching this podcast, so they know where I'm going to be drafting guys in what round. So
yeah, we have everyone watching this podcast, Donnie. So you got to be careful. All right, we got Kyle Dubas watching this podcast. We got everyone. We got the whole entire OHL watching this podcast.
Hey, if you drop enough good content, Josh, people are gonna and Louie, people are gonna want to watch your podcast. So
that's why we brought you on here. We wanted everyone on here. So you're like, hey, how do we do it? Bring Uncle Donnie on here. He's gonna help us out. So yeah, Josh, you asked that question. I think that's great. I wanted to ask, how many NHL players have you coached when you were? Well, this question said when you were young.
Were young. Yeah.
They were young.
I used to run a showcase in Detroit called the Elite Prospect Showcase, and I think last year 114 kids that played my showcase played in the NHL.
Wow.
All right.
But directly, I drafted some guys. I always have coach guys, but like guys that played in my showcase, like Kyle Connor and Kyle Akposo, Jonathan Tays, Patrick Kane. I mean, Jeff Skinner, Drew Doughty. The list goes on and on and on. All these guys have played in it. And I have a relationship with great coaches out of the Toronto area, like Lindsey Hofford used to scout in Arizona. Lindsey runs pro hockey. He would bring teams. John Calvano, my brother, would bring teams out of Western Canada, and Kevin Epp, who's an agent. And then I would get the top 40 kids in the U.S., like Seth Jones, Caleb Jones. All those guys have played in my thing over the years. So it's the same thing. It's just about relationships and building a reputation and having a, because elite players want to play and compete against other elite players. Like it's like in high school now with 4- and 5-star football players. Because of social media, I don't care if it's a 5-star in Texas. He knows about the 5-star in Florida or the 5-star in Ohio. Because of social media, they know who each other are and stuff, right? So hockey was kind of the same thing. It's a very small world. And through Pittsburgh, Cleveland, like those guys don't play like Detroit when Honeybake, Compuware, Bell Tire, you play rivalry games all during the week. Like Pittsburgh and Cleveland have to travel to Detroit to play those teams. So you don't get those rivalry games in your own city because there's not enough kids, right? Detroit has a ton of kids. But they drive up to Detroit to play those top teams, and the amateur Pens have done a great job. They've developed a lot of good players. They've Brandon Sod came out of there when I was coaching. I was friends with Dave Hannon, who obviously you guys know played. His sons played as well. Just different people. But youth hockey is youth hockey, and that's where all the next ones are coming from. You know what I mean? So even though it's youth hockey, that's the feeder pool. And I just feel I love coaching at that level. John Cooper, the coach of the Lightning, and I were at Honeybake at the same time. He had the midget team, I had the Bantam team. And Coop's a great coach. He's a great communicator with his players. He obviously went on and moved. He moved to Texarkana and St. Louis and Green Bay to coach. I just didn't do that. I had a young family at the time, and I just wanted to stay in Cleveland. Or in Detroit area. I didn't want to move back then for juniors for the USHL or North American League. You'd have to move. I was fortunate enough to be, player personnel with the Barons, and then we were in the USHL for 2 years with the Blue Jackets. Doug McLean and Tom Goebel activated the Thunder Bay franchise, and then after 2 years, our franchise went away, and they became the Fargo Force. And I just didn't want to move and chase that dream. Do I wish I would have? I chose my family over coaching. But I still feel I had a big impact.
Good call.
On all the
good call.
Yeah. I wanted to be a father first, and super excited. My daughter just committed to Fordham University to run track next year as a freshman at Fordham, nice. And so hopefully by being around there, I helped develop that. My son had a great career at Ohio University. I was a top scorer there and played a little bit of minor pro. And he's the one that has that new company called Access Network, which is basically like Patreon, but for athletes only. So you guys, check that out, Access Network, which is kind of cool. But yeah, so do I have any regrets? Nope, I don't have any regrets because I've made a lot of impact on a lot of people in hockey. I just don't coach at the pro level.
Not only that, your road took you to the Penguins Collective, and I'd say that's a win. That's a win, Uncle Donnie. That's what I would say. That's what I would say.
And I did not score on my own goal ever. Just let's make that clear. None of my players I coached ever scored an own goal ever.
That's impressive.
I don't know how to respond to that.
Yeah,
you just gotta laugh about it, guy, because they believe me, Tanger and Evgeny didn't plan on doing that, guy. It's just a bad night gone worse, right? You know what I mean?
Oh no, I don't think they did it on purpose. I mean, they probably could have done it a lot better.
Yeah,
but you even saw Tanger's reaction. He was just he covered his mouth with his glove, like just, oh my god, did we really just do that?
Yeah.
So I don't think they did that on purpose. Josh, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just one last question for the junior hockey. As long as everyone can remember, hockey has kind of been dominated by the Canadians, and it's, it is what it is. And there was the influx of the overseas players of Europe and Russia. Where do you see USA hockey going? Because I mean, we just won the
juniors.
What was it? The
juniors.
World Juniors.
Yeah.
So I mean, like, is it actually on the uptick?
I believe so. With the U.S. National Development Program, obviously they're developing players at a very, very high rate. They're doing a great job doing it. The level of competition they're playing at that age group. In fairness to Canada, like, Connor Bedard's still eligible. He could have played in the World Juniors this year. I don't think they had their best roster, and the Russians didn't go because of the whole political situation that's happening in Ukraine. But I think we're doing a really good job. But, those kids in Detroit, when they're little, they're going to Toronto every weekend. Like, I coached against Connor McDavid and Josh Hosang on the 96 Marlies. And, McDavid was a 97, played up at 96. And he's the best player. I mean, we're playing him in the Silver Stick final. McDavid goes flying down past our bench. I used to work on the D door, to make sure I was cheating and gaining real estate on line changes all game. Like, I always tried to find a competitive advantage. McDavid blows down by me in the corner, retrieves the puck, walks the goal line, goes through his legs, short side bar down. I looked at my brother. I go,
yeah.
And we lost like 5-1 or something this championship. But just very fortunate to be coaching against these kids for the years, and because they're the next superstars, and it's a blessing and a privilege to be able to have an impact on people's children. And I take it very seriously because, it's youth sports and it's coaching. But, if you do a good job, you send your kids to private school because you pay the tuition because you feel that's a better education or the better teachers. No different than youth sports and coaching. If you feel that's the best coaches to develop your kids to try and get to the next level, then you pay that. Like, in baseball now, they have hitting coaches and this coach and that coach. And I mean, we just played in the neighborhood with my brothers and all of our friends, and that's how we got better. And we argued he's out, he's safe. We developed our communication skills doing that. I mean, that doesn't happen anymore. Everything's, you got to have 3 uniforms and 3 sets of hats, or you don't even play, right? Like, because you're not looking like a major leaguer. So we played shirts and skins football, right? Like, you get tackled and you're itching, sweating like you hated it. But that's how I was raised. So you can take that old school mentality and kind of weave it into today's new age, and then I think that's a good thing,
So would you like to take credit for Patrick Kane coming back to Detroit?
No, but I did text Donna Kane when they did. I said, Donna, this is the first time your son's played in Detroit. You didn't have to run around taking the skates to get that one guy that used to get it. Patrick would only let one guy sharpen his skates in Detroit when he played for me. And she's like, yeah, LOL, like, I don't have to do that anymore. But no, Kaner said that when I met with him when he got traded to the Rangers last year, there was 5 teams. He's a hockey junkie. He loved Toronto. He said the 2 Florida teams. The Rangers were possible, and then Detroit. He said back at that time, DeBrincat was saying, go to Detroit. That's before DeBrincat even got traded to Detroit. So obviously DeBrincat wanted to go there. I think he expressed his interest, and then obviously the Ottawa and Detroit made that happen. Then once DeBrincat got there, I thought it was pretty pretty good chance that he was going to go there. And it's funny because Pat Verbeek housed him. Beaker was my assistant coach, who's now the GM of Anaheim. I texted him after. I go, hey, Kaner wants to know if he can live at your house, and we had another dad on the team that's going to pay his billet bill. Is that all right? And Beaker was just like laughing. So,
no, that's awesome. And I just want to say, hey, we don't want to keep you too long, but thank you so much for joining this podcast today. Seriously, we were blown away when you were in the chat just casually name dropping, and you did it again on this podcast. Like, oh yeah, I coached against Connor McDavid. Like, come on, we didn't know that, and you did it again. You just casually name drops. Obviously, you knew about the Patrick Kane situation, but you coached him. I mean, you're awesome. We want to have you on again. And we're just gonna do an outro with you on the screen. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Because we do whatever the heck we want on this podcast. And if we want you here, we're going to have you. So, Josh, where can these beautiful listeners find this conversation with Uncle Donnie?
Yeah, so wherever you're currently listening to us, obviously this is the audio version at this point now. So it is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. You name it, we are there. Just make sure that you do whatever the platform offers. Like, subscribe, rate 5 stars, leave a comment, whatever it entails. It'd be greatly appreciated. It goes a long way for us to spread this out and allow other people to listen to this conversation that we just had with great old Uncle Donnie. And it'll be, if we can get it out there to the masses and we can get him on again, we'll be able to have it reach more people and have a bigger impact and listen to all these Uncle Donnie nuggets.
Awesome. Now, Josh, did you forget about our Discord?
Oh, I did forget about this.
I know.
See,
look at this.
Discord.
You're making us look bad in front of Uncle Donnie.
Hey, Louie, give him a pass though. At least he's awake now. Last game he sound asleep.
That's true.
Take
100% right.
Take what you can get at this point, man.
I'll run the show myself.
So
like
true.
You said, elite players need to play with elite players. Let me take over, Josh. All right. So we got a new Discord, the Penguins Collective, that Discord. It's growing. It's fun. We have live game chats during the game. Make sure you're there. It is fun. People jinx the Penguins there all the time. It's great and fun. Josh woke up. He joined. It's great. Hopefully Uncle Donnie will join. Guys, thank you so much for watching this podcast. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you guys in the next game, which is what, Josh?
I believe Saturday against the Florida Panthers.
Oh, God, let's hope that's a win. Well, let's see you Saturday after that game. Thank you, Uncle Donnie, for joining this podcast. We'll see you guys in the next one. And Josh, as always, and Uncle Donnie, can you say it? Let's go, Pens.
Let's go, Pens.
Let's go, Pens.
Beautiful.